Hello, great thinkers. I'm Erik Thurwanger, and I want to welcome you back to the next episode of the Think Great Experience. And I'm really excited about today's episode because we're kicking off segments of greatness. And these are strategies, techniques, tactics that I use as a business coach to transform businesses, to transform business leaders, to transform business teams, to transform business results. These are the strategies, the tactics, the techniques that I'm taking into businesses all over the country. And now I'm going to share them with you in these little mini segments. And we're going to string these together so you have a constant feed of greatness that you can use and you can share with your people. So we're going to kick today off by talking about a concept called the 3 pillars of business greatness. I've been teaching on this for many years, and I start a lot of my presentations off, whether I'm in there for leadership development or strategic planning or sales. And I talk about the 3 pillars of business greatness. But I want to start it off by asking you a question. This is the same question I start most of my sessions off with. Can your business be greater? It's kind of an easy question. We're all going to say yes. But the real question is how? In fact, everybody says yes. C-suite, leadership teams, even team members say their business can be greater. But when I ask how, sometimes people look like a deer in the headlights. They haven't really thought that in depth. And you probably have. So you have some items going through your head right now. Ways that your organization can be greater, make a greater impact, help you to hit those greater goals you have. Now, as you're thinking about that level of greatness, here's what I want you to think about. Your ability to hit that and support that and potentially exceed that rests on 3 pillars. The pillar of leading, planning, and selling. Pillar 1, leading, leadership development. Pillar 2, planning, having a strategic plan, what we call a flight plan for your future direction and destination. And number 3, selling. That 3rd pillar is all about sales excellence, how to create more sales, more unsolicited referrals for your business. Now, most organizations would agree that leading, planning, and selling are critically important. And I'll ask them questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is leadership in your organization? And they'll say things like 10. It's of the utmost importance. And then I'll ask them to rank their leadership development program. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank your current program for developing leaders at all levels? And they'll often say 0 or a 1 or a 2. I'll ask them about planning. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for your team to have a plan that outlines the destination and the direction to get there for the future? And they'll usually answer with a 10. It's that important. When I ask them to rank their current plan on a scale of 1 to 10, they usually rank it very low. Some companies, about 70%, don't even have a plan they operate off of on a daily basis. And then we'll get to the 3rd pillar, selling. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for your organization to generate more unsolicited referrals, referrals that you didn't ask for? They're just coming to you like fish jumping in your boat. And they'll say a 10. And sometimes people say an 11 or 12. But when I ask them, how would they rank their current referral tracking system on a scale of 1 to 10, they'll rank that very low, usually a 0 because they don't have one. And so I know you have levels of greatness. But what we're going to talk about today is how do you really structure your business to get there? How can you ensure that your team gets to that next level? Now, if you're like me, you don't want to just have levels of greatness. You actually want to hit them. And that's the key. We need to lead our way there, plan our way there, sell our way there in order to achieve and exceed all of those levels of greatness. So what we want to talk about is the frustrations that leaders encounter. You have an idea of all the levels of greatness you want to hit, but why are so many leaders frustrated each day? And they're frustrated because sometimes they'll say things like, our people aren't even on the same page. We're not speaking the same language. And I understand what they're talking about. They're not talking about their industry language. In other words, if you're a barista at Starbucks, you probably speak coffee and very fluently. If you are in the construction world, you speak construction fluently. There's words that should be coming out of your mouth. If you're in the banking industry, there's words that should come out of your mouth. Most people speak their industry language at the highest levels of fluency. Where they struggle is they don't have a shared language of success. They don't have the words on leading, planning, and selling that unify their people, that create a movement. And that's what we need to do. When I was in the military, they had words. They had words that unified us. They had mottos and phrases and what they called jargon in the military. Now, what I'll share with you is a couple strategies for today. Ways that you can get your people there. Because when it comes to leading, planning, and selling, I've written a book on each of the topics. I've written the Leadership Connection on leading, Elevate on planning, and Dynamic Sales Combustion on selling. And what I want you to leave here with today is I want you to think that you have 3 objectives. And these objectives, once hit, will lead you to that level of greatness that you're already identifying in your head. So number 1, first objective is to define your business greatness. What are those levels? And this is an exciting exercise for you to do with your entire team, not just your leaders, not just the C-suite or the executive leadership team, but ask everybody on your team, how can we be greater? And let them start to share that with you. And we'll talk about what some of those factors might be. Understand some of the words involved in a shared language of success. What words do you want to start incorporating into your daily routine at work that you want your people to speak so it unifies people and gets them focused on achieving greatness? And then you need to identify the steps. What will it take for your team to reach that level of greatness? Now, if you were to look up great in the dictionary, there's a lot of different definitions of it, but the one I love the most is remarkable in magnitude and degree. And that's just powerful. When I formed my company, Think Great, over 10 years ago, I looked up the word great. And that's the definition that stood out to me. And so when I want to achieve greatness, I want to achieve something that's remarkable in magnitude and degree. And so as you start to formulate these ideas, these levels of greatness, make sure that you are looking at ways that your business can be more remarkable in magnitude and degree. Okay, so let's talk about some ways that your business could be greater. Some levels that other business leaders around the world have suggested that this would make our business greater. Maybe it's a fully engaged team. Perhaps you want to have more empowered leaders, or you want to have a unifying culture. Maybe you need to have a more efficient workflow. Nobody ever complains about that. That's always helpful. Maybe you want to have more satisfied customers, or you want to have sales success, more revenue. Maybe you want to have increased profitability, a stronger bottom line. Maybe you want your business to be more relevant. You need some new products or some new services. You want to grow into new markets. Whatever the levels are, you have to identify them together as a team and be unified on that. This is what we're striving for. Now, obviously there's obstacles. If greatness was easy, everybody would do it. Every business would be ahead of the curve and excelling in every facet. But that's not the case. What we need to do is identify, what are some obstacles that we face? It's like going on a flight. We know that there might be some turbulence. Now, some of the obstacles that people have encountered before might be anything from cash flow to your own competition, maybe some market conditions that are uncontrollable. And that's not uncommon in the workplace right now. Maybe you have the wrong people filling positions in your organization. So you may need to make some trades like a sports team. You may have a lack of teamwork. You may have low morale. Maybe you don't have any systems. Maybe these things would hinder your ability to achieve greatness. And so it's very important as you list your levels of greatness, the things that you want to accomplish, what could get in the way? I think that's important to do. And your team, the same ones that said, hey, here's our levels of greatness that we believe we could elevate to, they would probably tell you, here are the things in our way. Now, what I've learned is that most organizations don't lack the desire for greatness. They just lack the drive. They need to be able to unify their teams. They need to pull them together and almost have a rally cry, right? A battle cry, if you will. Something to focus on. So you've got some amazing levels of greatness that you want to hit. You've got some obstacles that will be in your path because there's always obstacles or challenges that we face, but a unified team can get over those. I want you to assess your business pillars right now, leading, planning, selling. I want you to think about how strong they are. Are they strong enough to support the level of greatness that you desire? And so let's just talk leading, pillar 1. I'll give you some questions and you can answer them on a scale of 1 to 10. In fact, you should really have your team unified and answer these questions on a scale of 1 to 10 so that you can figure out how to strengthen each of your pillars. But as we're talking about leadership, how would you rank on a scale of 1 to 10 your current leadership development program? Are you developing leaders, or are you just hoping that they're strong enough to carry out your plan? The second question regarding your leadership pillar is, how engaged is your entire team on a scale of 1 to 10? Are they all in? The third one is, rank the level of dynamic communication happening in your organization. Is the communication on a scale of 1 to 10 empowering? That would be a 10. It's empowering, it's unifying, it's pulling people together. All right. So that's just the leadership pillar, pillar 1. Now let's take a look at pillar 2 and start to identify some ways that we can assess the strength of our pillar of planning. First question, how well does your team utilize a strategic plan on a scale of 1 to 10? A 10 means they have it, they utilize it, it helps guide them every day. Number 2, how well are your leaders supporting the plan? A 10 would be they're showing up every day. They know what aspect of that plan to support, so you hit your destination. And number 3, how well do you have your next 3 to 5 years mapped out? That longer term vision that gives people hope, gives them something to strive for. All right, now it's going to move us on to pillar 3. Here's some questions so you can assess the strength of pillar 3, selling. What, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the productivity level of your sales team? How productive are they? Are they just busy, or are they actually productive? Number 2, how often does your team earn unsolicited referrals? On a scale of 1 to 10, that means a 10. 100% of their business comes without them asking for it. It's just referral based. And the third and final question is, rank on a scale of 1 to 10 the current level of sales support for your sales team. In other words, how much support are they receiving from the rest of the team? Salespeople sell to the perceived capabilities they have of their support system. And so they need to know, they need to have that mindset that support is in place and can support any level of work they bring in. Now, this was the first segment of greatness, all on levels of greatness. How can your business be greater? Your big takeaways from today: identify those levels of greatness. Identify your obstacles. What's in the pathway of accomplishing those? Unify your team. Strengthen each of your 3 pillars, leading, planning, and selling, so it can support the levels of greatness that each of you, your entire team, your leaders want to support. And don't forget, today is an amazing day to think great. The world needs more great thinkers. So tune in again soon. We're going to have another segment of greatness for you. And until then, think great and make a huge impact in everyone you encounter.